Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I've got a guest today who'll be no stranger to your social media accounts. It's the one and only, of course, Mr. Ben Madden. So, Ben, I've been stalking the life out of you this morning in preparation for this. You're doing some absolutely amazing stuff in both the estate agency world and outside slightly of the estate agency world. So, you've been an agent now for 20 years, probably over 20 years now. Why did you first get into the business?
Yeah, I guess same as a lot of people, really. I knew from a very young age I really wanted to be an estate agent. No, I'm kidding.
I
Absolutely.
know one.
Yeah, nobody grows up with that as their dream, or certainly from maybe our era. Yeah, I sort of fell into it, I guess. I didn't take school seriously, didn't take education seriously, dropped out of A levels, went into hospitality, went into retail, bounced around a bit, had a bit of I enjoyed the selling aspect of the different things that I did. Someone I think made a suggestion, you should think about property. And so I went for one interview because the place where I was working was being rebranded and I didn't want to stay. And yeah, the rest is history. I got that gig, started life out at Ludlow Thompson, which was acquired by Foxtons last year, I think. Nice I say little business, that's unfair. They were a 13 branch business when I joined them. And yeah, the rest is history. I spent a few years with them, a few years with a fantastic independent sort of award-winning business called Northfields, and then went on to set up my own thing. And I've been doing that for the last 15 years, I guess.
Yeah, great. Was there any particularly deciding factor that made you think, actually, I'm going to do it for myself? Was there any kind of line in the sand where you're like, I've had enough of being an employee and I want to kind of branch out? What was the deciding factor there?
Um, I guess I would say the deciding factor was a disagreement with senior management at the independent business that I worked at for a couple of years. So I launched a branch for them, a lettings branch, I should say, and it went gangbusters, went really well. We were all very happy with the performance, but based on the performance, promises were made. And, I get it now as a business owner, it's not so easy. 15 years down the line, the journey that that person was on or the business they were running, uh, we ended up just deciding it was better to go separate ways. And actually, when I left that business, it wasn't with the intention of I'm going to go and set up my own. It was I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And I ended up 6 months later saying I will set up on my own because a few years ago I proved that I could do that, and I really enjoyed it. Genuinely enjoyed agency. The buzz of the sale, the ability to wow people, the fact that you have complete control over your own income levels. My most enjoyable part was actually the team side, the interaction, the banter, the fun, the training, the coaching. So it just made sense. And yeah, I went for it, and yeah, it went okay.
What was the sort of goal for the business when you first launched and kind of went out on your own? Did you have like I don't know, 6 month plan, a 12 month? Where do you kind of want to get to? You're like, oh, if I can only get to X income or X amount of staff members, or what was the kind of the initial goal before you launched?
So this is going to sound really naff. So the number one thing I wanted to do was have fun. And I know that sounds. I know how people are watching and listening and thinking, really, is that really? But um, maybe overconfidence, maybe ego. I didn't think doing business was going to be that difficult. Like I was going to apply everything I'd done previously and do it in a slightly different location. And so I was certain that we could be a commercial success. But I just wanted to make sure it was fun because we spent a lot of time at work. I wanted to be with people that I enjoyed spending time with. I wanted to do things in a way that, weren't, and I don't mean this sort of, it wasn't that we were unprofessional, but we didn't need to be too professional. We didn't need to be dull. We didn't need to be boring. We could still enjoy what we did. So that was the number one goal. In terms of tangibles, I remember writing down in my first year that by the time I turned 30, which would have been 6 or 7 years after we launched, the sentence I wrote down was, I'm celebrating my 30th birthday by opening our third branch in West London. And so that was the tangible. We're going to get to this level. And I had in my head that branch footprint was a tangible measure of success. In hindsight, it was really my ego. Ego was fueling that decision-making process. And actually, looking back, the rapid expansion that we went on, we were a 5 branch business within 8 years, I think. It was too much too quick, actually. And in hindsight, if I went back, I now love the model of one really super high octane branch where there's loads of business, loads of energy, loads of atmosphere. I think that actually, with the gift of hindsight, is a much nicer model to be a part of.
And so one of the I think frameworks is probably the best way to describe it. You talk about is your believe, care, try framework. Can you talk me through what that is?
Yeah, it's so funny that you bring that up because I decided at the weekend that um, that's been like my unofficial motto for about 5 years. It's on my big board upstairs. It makes up a lot of the conversation, a lot of my decision making process. And I actually think I virtually live by it. So in proper geek fashion, I'm going to make it my official motto. And I think it's my rule to live life by. So I think great things start with a level of belief, and you have to have that belief in whatever it is you're going to do. To give you an example away from business right now, I'm in a group with about 30 property professionals who are all on a fitness journey together. And the belief in that group is evident that they are going to achieve what they set out to do. Without belief, just like maybe a New Year's resolution or a target in business. If you don't believe you can do it, then whether you believe you can or you can't, you're going to be right. So I believe that it starts with belief, and then it's about how much you care about something. And care is the word that I come back to, and it shows up in everything we do. The most successful people, and of course, it's just opinion. It's my opinion. I'm happy to die on the hill. I believe the most successful people are the people that care about what they're doing. When my 9-year-old now starts to talk to me about what she's going to do when she's older, changes every week, but she says, "What do you want me to do?" Or she might have said this to me twice. And my first answer was like, "I really don't care what you do for work. I want you to be happy. I want you to be safe, and I want you to be fulfilled." Which, of course, at the time of saying that to an 8-year-old, she looked at me like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But I think fulfillment is the care piece. If you're fulfilled, if you care about what you're doing, it will drive you, it will fuel you. You will go beyond what you think you are capable of if you really care about something. So I think it's important to find yourself doing something you care about, and then you've got to apply effort. And there are varying degrees of or varying views is a nice way to put it on effort and overdoing it, working too hard. And I do have a slight concern that we've maybe gone just too far in our, don't worry, be careful not to burn out, always have a holiday. And I believe in self-care, 100%. I'm a fitness fanatic. I'm big on water consumption. I'm big on trying to get enough sleep, although with 3 children, that's arguable. But I do think that tenacity, perseverance, resilience, effort are really, really great traits. And in recent years, they've been a little bit demonized, which I'm very anti. So I believe, care about what you're doing, and then work your ass off. And I think you'll achieve whatever you set out to.
And if you look at the top performers that you have in your teams at the moment compared to the guys that maybe aren't in that top performer range, is that the number one sort of difference you see between those sort of two sets of people?
I think that to make it into the team, there has to be a level of belief, and I think belief is what you identify. So just so everybody knows, I have a fine and country, or 3 fine and country territories, and from a property business perspective, we run a very small, almost like a SEAL team outfit. So we've got 7 salespeople across 13 postcodes, which I know for a lot of people sounds ridiculous. Fine and country is a sort of top end of the market proposition, so we're a low volume, high touch point business. In 2024, we sold 125 million pounds of property. So it's a very different model from traditional agency, and that's what my world was 5 years ago. Traditional agency, much more about volume, maybe not quite such an extreme level of service and marketing and expertise, but still I felt quite high quality. It's difficult to talk about the fine and country business because it's such a small team and we've been together for such a long time. But if I go back to the Thorgills team, which is a business I exited and sold to Leader Romans in 2022, what we identified was that people dropped out of the business in the first 6 weeks of joining us, or they were there forever. And so I think the thing that was the key piece there is if they had the belief that they could do what we expected of them and they could achieve the extraordinary results that the vast majority of the rest of the business did. So belief is important in the early stages, but then I think further down the track, it's about how much they care, how much people care. People really care. They find a way. They just genuinely do. Give you an example, right? You've got a top performer. You can tell they care about. It's either maybe they want to make money, really easy. Maybe they care about. It's not so much money; it's lifestyle. Maybe they care about paying the mortgage and putting dinner on the table. Maybe they just care about winning. So we know loads of those people, but they care. Then you've got your sort of run of the mill. They're not that into it. They sort of seem like they just meander through life, but that's okay. Every business has got to have a mix of people, but that person can be frustrating to manage because you think if you just applied yourself, you get more results, but you don't, and so be it. And then we'll talk about a new policy or a new procedure, and they'll be slower to adapt. But again, it's life. It's okay. You can't, very rarely, especially in a service-led business like ours, can you have 100% A-star players, and that's life. But when there's a mistake on their payslip, that meanderer is on the ball so quick, and you think, that's amazing, isn't it? Because I've just presented you with a way to double your income by following this policy and nothing. But you're missing £14 and you've spotted it. It's because they care. That person cares about that thing. I think care is so important. If you care, you'll spot the £14 issue. So yeah, I think that that's the one. If we can find people that care about what they do for whatever reason, maybe they care on behalf of their client, which is a great place to be. But I think it's also disingenuous when that gets thrown around a lot. When people, they're really happy with their success and they present it as we're happy for our client, but actually you've heard the negotiation and they're acting more on behalf of the buyer than the actual client. So yeah, for me, care is the biggie.
But talk me through the differences. 'Cause obviously, Fun and Country is a high-end brand, as you alluded to there. So obviously, you're dealing with kind of high-end properties effectively. What are the differences you've noticed in marketing to high-end properties as opposed to sort of normal properties in inverted commas?
Sure. I mean, there's two sides to the coin, right? In our old business, we were what I regard as mass market. So our bread and butter was about £500,000, and you would get a 3-bed terrace or a 2-bed new build apartment on the sort of outskirts of West London suburbs. What we work on now, our average price point is about 2.2 million. And depending on where in West London or South West London you are, for that sort of money, you might get a 4-bed semi, but we also sell properties up to the value of, well, we've sold a couple of properties around £5 million, and they're quite extraordinary. And that's really exciting, it's fun, it's different. So there's an argument to say that marketing those properties is easier because there's so much to look at, to talk about, to see. The videos are breathtaking. But also the flip side is you don't always have the most open consumer base to work with. And so they're a little bit more secretive, is not the right word, but they don't necessarily want everything presented everywhere. And so a big part of the Fine and Country offering is to maximize our clients' exposure. That's one of our strategies. Present the product beautifully and then expose it to the widest possible suitable audience. And so we have lots of fun presenting things in different ways, but we also receive a lot more pushback than we used to from clients that don't necessarily want all the bells and whistles. So yeah, it's an interesting mix.
Mm. And how does that differentiate between with regard to kind of the lead generation side of things? So obviously you went from sort of more mass market stuff that is kind of the £500,000 sort of thing up to suddenly the £2 million sort of bracket. Did the way you sort of marketed and tried to gain instructions change? Did you actually were going from, I don't know, door knocking to leaflets? We're going to letters more? Are we doing more social media? What's the sort of marketing? How's that evolved over that time as your market is involved as well?
Sure. So I guess if I was to look back and think about the strengths of the businesses, our strongest ability, well, no, there's a few things, but let me to answer your question, it's our ability to generate leads for the business. So West London is a ridiculously saturated market for agents. Where I'm right now, which is in Chiswick on Turner Green Terrace, with a tennis ball, I could hit 15 agents, and that's on one road. And then on the adjacent road, there's another 20. And on the periphery of Chiswick, there's another 15. So where I'm going with this is you don't generate a great deal of inbound opportunities unless you're an established brand that's been available to the market for an extended period of time. There's an element of brand awareness or brand familiarity. So we all know the very well-known corporates. And in every market, we also all know the very well-established independents. And we never fell into either of those two categories in either business. So our businesses have always been structured around the lead generation work. And so things that we did at both businesses is door knocking, absolutely, physical canvassing and trying to be creative with the canvassing, not just flyers, not just letters, but what can we deliver that's slightly different. At the old business, it was probably a little bit more gimmicky to try and stand out. In the new business, it's more, I would say, data-led, a level of professionalism. The direct canvassing, I think, works really well at the moment because so many agents have stopped doing it because there are so many other opportunities. And we found by communicating with what we call our neighborhoods. So we have across 13 postcodes, we have 13 neighborhoods that we want to, in essence, dominate. And so we'll communicate with them every 2 weeks with a different message. Over a period of a quarter, the messages will be something, the traditional, we're valuing in your street at some point in the future. The hot buyer letter, which is a selection of buyers that might be relevant to the area that we're working with right now. It might be a detailed market update. So we produce a brochure, head office produce it for us, which is exceptional. A sort of clickbait flyer to get an up-to-date valuation on the spot, and they work exceptionally well. A success flyer, which actually we only incorporated that last year. Up until now, we haven't spoken about our success at all as a brand. And then one piece that's relevant to the market conditions they find themselves in right now. So maybe it's spring's coming up, come to market in isolation as opposed to competition, that sort of stuff. So direct canvassing absolutely works. The thing that we think we had a big part in developing in this industry over the years is the digital canvassing piece. And so at our first business, as a 75% lettings agency, we would target landlords, find them online, and we've been doing that for, I guess now we've been doing it for 12 years. And that would be about using the land registry or using Companies House, finding the individual, starting a conversation. And I appreciate we're talking to agents all across the country on this podcast, but in London, it's a little bit like the Wild West. And what I mean by that is most landlords are happy to go multi, happy to give a load of agents. It's a fickle world, landlords and lettings in London. And so we were able to crowbar our way into and grow a fairly significant lettings portfolio without really ever receiving that many direct leads inbound. We also do the more, I guess, modern stuff. So I think we've built, the reason we've maybe grown at such a fast pace in both businesses is because we've done lots of the traditional, we've overlaid that with the modern. And so we've been reasonably obsessive around video and social media and ensuring that, as I mentioned before, those brands that have been in the market for a long period of time, they have this brand familiarity piece. They're recognized. Well, that's in the traditional format. If we go to social media, if we go online, the playing field is so much more level. And so I think we can go toe to toe. In fact, I know we can go toe to toe with any established business on social media because we can target consumers in the exact same way and there's less awareness of that brand. So we've done loads of video, we've done loads of social media, and we found that does a number of things. It increases our brand awareness, it improves our conversion rate. Now, when you walk into a room and they reference your daughters because they've seen your social media content, straight away we've already won this instruction, and there's a lot less pushback on things like fees. So we found that the modern methods of marketing, video, social media, fantastic brand awareness, fantastic for conversion and amplifying our fees. Long answer there, but from a lead generation perspective, 85 to 90% of our day is around lead generation because we're a low touch point, a low volume business. We're not doing hundreds of viewings. It's really about creating the great opportunities more than volume.
And let's say, for example, just to explore something you said there. So you mentioned obviously the landlord side of things and social media side of things. If let's say I was a landlord, for example, in your area and you found my details online, do you just ping me over a message? Do you send me a voice note? Do you send me a video? What's the sort of initial sort of comms go on that side of things?
So I think if we were to be doing it now, so we're not targeting landlords now, but to use landlords as the example, we're a sales only business. Mm-hmm. If we were still running the old business now with all the advanced technology that's available, we would be using video, we would be using voice notes because we would want to create something that makes you stand out. But not many people are bold enough to send a video to someone they've never met. It's becoming more common. You probably get a few sales messages a week that are videos now, and I do too. But if that technology had been available to us when we were doing this sort of stuff at scale a few years ago, I just think we would have gone gangbusters. If I'm doing it now, if we're targeting people and it works for the Fine & Country brand, you're on the market with another agent, and maybe we will see that you're a local homeowner, and because of our international network, we've got 300 locations worldwide, I want to have a conversation with you about whether we can help you find your onward purchase. It's a really simple, brief, easy opener. And once we have that conversation, we'll refer them to the relevant location, or we'll try and help support them ourselves. And then there's the opportunity, can we maybe act as a buying agent for that consumer? So there's a financial or commercial opportunity there if they're buying locally. If over an extended period of time, the agent they're currently working with doesn't produce the results, we're in communication. Hopefully we can get ourselves through the door. The goal for us in our business is, can we get ourselves over the threshold? Everything we do is about opportunity creation and then justification of whatever position we find ourselves in, be that justifying working with us, our fee, our terms, justify making an offer, whatever it needs to be. That's our two things. And so at the moment, our messaging is fairly simple. Notice you've just come to the market. Love to help you with your onwards purchase. We're located in XYZ. And we want to begin the dialogue and try and help. If we can help with the purchase, great. If we can help with the sale, wonderful. Let's see where that takes us.
For those who are listening on the podcast, I've been nodding for about the last 15 minutes. So Ben, that's really, really great stuff there. So you've segued me beautifully into, you talked about obviously the digital media side of things. So you're jumping into somewhat of the supplier area. So talk me through what you've got going on.
So look, I apologise. I am a waffler. That is why my podcast called Pass the Syrup, because there's so much waffle. I'll try and keep this piece concise for you. So we've launched a business called Digital Sparks, and the goal of the business is to, interesting. Last night I was listening to Alex Hormozi, and he was talking about the perfect model for setting up a business is when the founder has experienced pain, has a passion for the product, and has a professionalism. So has already worked with the product. And I thought, cycling home last night, that's amazing. I've absolutely landed on in essence, I must be the perfect founder. So what we're doing is trying to offer property professionals what we've been doing for the last few years. So we create a lot of video content, as I mentioned earlier. And because I know so many agents, I just get really nice feedback. I'll get, they like this video. They'll support the video content. They'll ask for advice on how to produce the content. Some have asked last year, we asked if they could come and do some content with us, or they could use our videography team. And so after enough of that communication, we decided it makes sense for us to actually offer this as a product. So that's what we're going to do. It's a very specific offering, and it's short form video content specifically designed for social media. And the idea is, I don't like the term personal branding, but we want to tell the protagonist's story. We want to tell your story because it's the most important story you have. And to use Richard Branson as the obvious example that lots of people do, he has 34 million followers online. The Virgin Group has less than 1.5 million because people are interested in people. And so we want to help agents connect with their community, not just gain followers and likes and the nonsense. We actually want to build relationships and help grow your brand, grow your business, and do great things, because where people's attention is right now is social media. When I go home, or when people go home, they used to read a book, they used to listen to the radio, they used to watch TV. Now they look at short form content on social media. So if that's where the consumer is looking, that's where we all need to be.
And do you help with scripting is probably not the right word here. Do you actually help with like the narrative side of things? Because a lot of people that I know don't mind being in front of camera, but they're like, what do I say?
Yeah, so it's a full sort of service. We will come up with a content schedule and plan for you. It will start with headlines. Well, actually, it will start with a deep dive into who you are, who you want to be, your beliefs, your goals, your aspirations, a bit about your history. And then we'll look really in detail at your local market, because the goal is to talk to your local market about yourself and what's important to you, so that they can build a relationship and a natural rapport and a natural trust. Once we've got the headlines, we'll build out scripts, and the scripts will be some advisory content based around the local area. But we'll also do things like interview style content, which allows you just to present yourself in a very natural way, answering questions that we know the consumer is going to be interested in. There's also some other style content. I think it's important to produce some expertise and data related content, so people know that you know your stuff when it comes to property and the property market. We have some fun. We do some visual effects content, which, we've all seen those sort of trending style visuals that capture the attention and are fun. So, in essence, we're trying to make it as easy as possible. I was at a Property Academy meeting a couple of years ago, and somebody, he wasn't a speaker, he was referenced, and his findings in this study were that for any product to be of value, it needs to either be better than what's available, make your life easier than what's available, get you a result faster, or if it can't be those three, it's got to be cheaper. And so we've built a product that's all four, actually. We're going to go with the Henry Ford method or model of scalability, and we want to help as many agents as possible to do what we've been doing, because the overriding goal, and this has been my goal for years, is to get my business, my Fine and Country business, to charging 3%. People be like, "What? 3% is wild." But if people like you before you walk in the door, if they build a rapport, if they trust you, they will pay a higher fee. And I think this method of marketing and brand presentation allows you to get there. So we want to help as many agents as we can do that. We'll only work with one agent per area, so it's sort of a territory thing, because it feels very disingenuous to be producing similar sort of content for more than one agent. But yeah, I'm really, really excited about where this can go and how many agents we're going to end up helping.
I think for any agents who might listen and go, "Oh, everyone's doing video content these days. It's been and gone." They're not. Like the stats back it up. I'll pick these figures out of the air here, but they are literally like on all social media, like 3% of people post video content on a regular basis, sort of thing. Like 97% or something consume that content, and only 3% kind of produce it. Is a massive outweigh with regard to people that produce compared to consume. So if you think that video has had its day or everyone's doing video content, they're not. I go on my LinkedIn feed and my social media feed. It's the same people. It's the same people doing video content. It's the same people doing picture content. I've got 6,000 connections or so. It's probably the same 30 people I see day in day out, sort of thing. So there's a huge opportunity there to be in sort of the winning side as opposed to consuming side.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. There's 8 billion people on the planet. 4 billion of them use social media every month, and I think roughly half of all content that's produced gets 0 engagements. So what that means is 50% of all content that's posted to social media, nobody's ever seen, including us. It's not being pushed out there. But actually, to your point, if you're an agent and you think everybody's doing video and I shouldn't, it's just a waste of my time, this is how you test it. You look at your top 10 competitors in your market, you jump on their social media and you see what they're doing. And you will be surprised, because you're right, Chris, you see the same 30 people. I said to somebody the other day, I see the same 200 agents at every event. I've got my 200 mates in agency, and I think they're probably the best agents in the land because they go to the events, they believe in coaching, they believe in training, they believe in the future. But actually, there are 21,000 agents in this country. I assure you, the vast majority have not embraced the future yet, but they're consumers that consume in that way. So they need to now be businesses that produce in that way. It makes absolute sense.
I love that. I really love it. So there's a huge opportunity there for anybody. So let's finally just talk about what our last topic, which is the boys club. So talk me through the idea behind this. I know it's been up and running now for about 6 months or so. I'm picking that figure out. But it's probably been longer. I don't know. Yeah. Time flies. So you'll probably know better than I will. So talk me through the idea of the boys club.
So yeah, it's a few things really. So what everybody may or should remember is back end of 2022, Truss and Kwarteng sort of broke the economy. And I found myself early in 2023, quarter one 2023, talking to lots of agents. Some were friends and I had relationships with them, and randomly some weren't. Some were just people that I'd maybe seen some of my content online. And I was having very similar conversations. People were sort of, they were struggling, to put it simply, that the market was flat. We'd had this crazy post-COVID boom, and then the air was pulled out of, or the rug was pulled out from beneath us. Yeah, we all know it started to slow down around summer 2022, but then it was very aggressive in the final quarter of the year, 2022, and then people's pipelines in 2023 weren't great. And so there was a lot of fear, a lot of concern, and lots of people genuinely going through what I would describe as mental health issues or stresses, or it was unpleasant. So the first thing I did, I started the podcast, Pass the Syrup, to try and have a bit of fun and let everybody know that everyone's going through it and we're all in the same boat and it's tough, but that's life and we're going to be fine and we're going to push through. And that sort of worked. And then that sort of set up a platform for more conversations, which was not the intention. The idea behind the podcast was talk to lots of people. So I don't have 3 calls a week with people that are struggling, but I ended up taking more calls a week. And then the trigger was actually a friend of mine, an agency, put a message into a WhatsApp group saying he'd been through some real mental health issues. And he came out the other side and he was feeling better. And nobody knew because men don't talk about this stuff. It's just like, we're not good at talking about our emotions. And so I spoke to him afterwards and said, I've been thinking about this idea to try and talk to people at scale and talk to men and create an environment where men would be comfortable to talk to each other. Because at that time we had the Women in the State Agency group. And from what I understand from the girls that run that, that is a very active group, very supportive, very helpful. And men didn't really have a place to do that. So we started this group. And so the group it's progressed. It started off as a Zoom meeting, and now it's a Facebook group because we actually copied the system that the Girls and Women in the State Agency created by creating a Facebook group, because that's a sort of a closed environment. And so the idea is we create an environment that's sort of safe. I say sort of, it is safe. Of course it's safe. And it allows men to sort of talk about what they want. The truth is, it's a work in progress because men don't talk unless they're prompted to talk. But what we do every month is have a monthly online meeting, as you know, Chris, because you've been one of our speakers, and we have a different speaker every month talk through in essence, their mental health journey. Now, every month is completely different because it's meant to be personal to the individual. And the idea is that by hearing other stories, people relate and they know that it's not just them. We all have these issues. I heard a brilliant line. Your problems are not your own. Somebody had them before you. Someone's going to have them after you. So you don't need to, you're not going through anything different. We're all individuals. I get that. But someone has been through what you're going through right now. And so to hear somebody else talk about it is really powerful. To hear about how they coped with it and the coping mechanisms and how they handled it in the future and how they came out stronger on the other side, really, really powerful. And so as I say, we meet once a month. It's 45 minutes to an hour. It's on Facebook. It's alive. And so you can watch it back retrospectively. And we've had snippets of amazing feedback. So people that say things like, I really need to hear that. I'm going to go talk to somebody now. Or if I hadn't heard that, I don't know what I would have done. And so it's not, we're not talking to thousands of people, but if we're able to help just one person, then it's worth it. And it's, of course, it's fulfilling and it's emotional and it can be tough. We had somebody who was on yesterday who talked about his experiences and he's going through something right now. It's really, really tough. And it really resonated with me because he's got kids, I've got kids, and but it's worthwhile. And so if anybody would like to join, it's called The Boys Club. Look us up on Facebook. And we'd love to have you there.
No, I think it's a really great thing to be doing. And I did a talk at PropX last year about men's mental health. And then, as you mentioned, I did a talk on the Boys Club as well. And after the PropX talk, I think I was hugged by about 10 random guys in a row, just random people coming up to me, sort of a little bit teary, give me a hug sort of thing. I was like, bloody hell, it's not just me. It is like a lot of people are in these boats sort of thing, and people just don't talk about it. And the same thing with the talk on the Boys Club. As soon as kind of the live stream finished sort of thing, my phone like lit up with messages saying, thanks very much, and I'm going to do something similar and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely a big screen that mostly guys put over the top of things that kind of do this sort of everything is fine when lots of the time it probably isn't.
Yeah, you're right. It's we're sort of we've been built to say everything is fine or stiff upper lip or I'm going to get through it and boys don't cry. But actually, I mean, I've come to the thinking that it's braver to talk about it than not, because that's much more difficult, and doing difficult things is what makes you brave.
Ben, that's a brilliant line to finish the show on. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.